What's up, guys? Chad Howse here. So, I had not planned on doing a podcast. I actually haven't done a podcast in a long time, but my mind is opening to the podcast because I'm getting a lot of emails from guys who want something to listen to when they're driving or when they're running or when they're at the gym and so forth. And this podcast will be very brief, it'll be quick, and we are going to talk about one of the reasons why you actually go to the gym. So I got the camera up here. Move that. Talk about one of the reasons why we go to the gym. And it combats or it counters a trend in society. So more and more in society, we're seeing that we are trying to make our young men and our boys soft because of our desire, or in part for our desire for safety. So we have a lot of people, women, weak men, and so forth, who are scared of what a strong man has the capacity to do. But there's a flaw in this. So the flaw is, if you look at chimpanzee, whatever, societies, tribes, whatever they're called, the best chimpanzee leaders get things done. So they have relationships with everyone else in the tribe. They're not necessarily the most brutal or the most powerful. They have that capacity, but they get things done. So the worst are those ones who are they may be stronger and they beat their way into leadership, but after a while, the other ones who might be 3/4 as strong as them are going to gang up and rip them limb from limb. So while a lot of people have this fear of what a strong man can do, so we want to make tamer, weak, or softer men, they're looking at it in the wrong way. They're looking at the bad, but not at the good, the necessary good that comes from having strong men in our society. We need strong men in our society because bad men are going to do bad things, and weak men are going to do even worse things. We see this weakness in feminists, in male feminists. Now, it's not all of them. I actually know a couple guys who come to mind who are actually really good guys. They're strong men, they're leaders. And they would call themselves feminists. But there's a lot of these male feminists who they're not after protecting or defending their women. The only way they can get a relationship with a woman is by calling themselves a feminist and standing against this male patriarchy or whatever the hell they're doing these days. Because they see, well, these male feminists this is the only way they can get a relationship with a woman is by being deceitful, by being cunning. They're weak. They're not to be trusted around women, and they're not to be trusted in our society in general. But we see this, where was I going? See, it's a problem with podcasts. You start rambling. You see this incorrect look at the strength that some men can possess. And when you have a society that is devoid of these strong men, the weak men can do whatever they like. And these weak men are always evil. They're deceitful. You don't want to make a society safe by making men weak. They'll stab you in the back. You make them strong and you make them disciplined. They need strength, and to acquire strength, you have to have discipline, so they go hand in hand. But if you have a society full of weak men, they're going to shoot up schools. They're going to shoot up concerts. These are weak men that are doing this. And we need to train our men like we did in Rome, like we did in Greece, like we did in America, early America, like we did in early Canada. We train our men to be strong so as to be the sheepdogs for our society. And as we turn our backs, as we raise our boys in fear of the strength that they possess, in fear of what they could do with that strength if they foster it, we don't let them create the strength necessary to have a safe, orderly society. So what we're lacking is fostering the strength in men, because we're afraid of the possibility of brutality. These feminists, they see the patriarchy as oppressive, and they see capitalism as oppressive. But capitalism is merely a relationship. Both people have to benefit for the capitalism to work correctly. Leaders in society, in capitalistic societies. I'm reading through John D. Rockefeller's biography right now by Ron Chernow, and leaders in a capitalistic society get things done. They're not demeaning. The ones that last are not oppressive, brutal. They're not taskmasters. They're smart, they're intelligent, they get shit done, and they inspire others to do the same. John D. Rockefeller set his company up. I think he was the first to do this, but he set it up so that each employee, to a certain degree, had a stake in the company. So they were all capitalists. The better they did, the more they earned, because their stock price went up. He had a way of getting people. He had a way of leading by example, but also inspiring people to do what he wanted them to do by letting them reward themselves. That is capitalism. And so these feminists, and I saw a stat that about 7% of women call themselves feminists now, so it's a depleting demographic, but a lot of them are in education, which comes back to what we're talking about fostering strength in our young men. These feminists, they don't see the getting things done. They don't see these leaders making our society turn and work and inspiring people. They have a cynical view of how life is, and they're ignorant to every other way of doing things. They actually think that communism is a viable option. I don't remember if it's 60 million or 100 million, but it killed a lot more than even fascism. Fascism is horrible, but it's a form of socialism. Again, they see these other options as idyllic, and they trash the thing that has given them, has made them the 1% in the world. Odds are that all these feminists in the West are in the 1% in the world. And that's because of capitalism. Back to strong men. So when you remove the strong men, when you remove the men able to be dangerous, no one is kept in line. When you have strong men with the capacity for brutality, and who use that barbarism for good rather than bad, you create order in a society. Everyone has to step in line when there are people who can keep them in check. That cannot be just police, because there are far too few of them. There have to be strong men in every neighborhood, all over our society, that keep things in check. People have to understand that there are consequences for what they do. They have to have fear that if they're going to rob someone, if they're going to, I don't want to go down the list of things that bad people can do, but if they're going to do it, there's going to be consequences. And not just from a government, not just from whatever, but from society, from whoever's around them. And it comes from men who are born with a desire to be strong, desire to fight. These are the men we need to water. We need to help grow. We need to foster. We need to put them into. We need to encourage them to win. We need to challenge them in ways that our modern school system does not challenge them. School sucked, and I went to a great school. It didn't suck because what they were teaching us was wrong or anything like that. It sucked because I had to sit on my ass all day, and I had to raise my hand and ask for permission to take a piss. It was, it didn't foster the things um, that eventually, when I got out of school and I dropped out of college pretty early, the things that the workforce challenged me with, and self-reliance, self-accountability, setting a goal and going after it. School didn't foster that stuff at all. Grades, I didn't care. I know a lot of guys don't care. It just doesn't fit. It doesn't give us what we need. And I'm gonna add an intro. So you may have heard this already, but I just listened to Jocko and Jordan Peterson's podcast, and it was great. So I'll put a link to that in the show notes below. And you're going to see a lot of what's in this reflected on that. So for an even better description of what we're lacking in society, they cover a lot more than this. I just wanted to hammer home this point, but head over to their podcast as well, and I'll put that link down below. So then we'll end with this, and Peterson talked about this in the Jocko podcast. Essentially, be the refined beast. On a personal level, you need both the capacity for danger and the capacity for discipline. You need to be able to kill, and you need some semblance of manners. You need to be the refined beast. It's discipline that focuses discipline, but you need discipline to get strong, to acquire mastery, and to be good at being a man. You need that to develop skill. You need discipline to develop skill. But once you have discipline, it also focuses these capacities into doing good, into using these abilities that strong men have, that you have, using them for good, using them to lead others, to inspire others, to kick some ass when it's needed to be kicked in the name of good. Discipline is the thing that focuses the light and lets you burn the leaf, if you know what I'm saying. So we're given guidelines of how to be in stories, mythology, and religion. Even beauty was interested in the beast. So long as that beast could be used in the service of family. That is, so long as he had discipline. She wasn't interested in the pot maker. I don't remember the movie, but she wasn't interested in, I don't know, the ballroom dancer. She wasn't interested in, I don't know, you know what I'm saying. She was interested in the beast. But if he wasn't disciplined, she would lose interest. She would only have fear of him. But because he had the capacity for discipline, that's who she followed. She didn't follow that other fellow. No, without discipline. Discipline is everything. So it focuses the power, the strength, the desire to inflict harm into doing good. Without discipline, you cannot focus the rage. You cannot focus that part of you, especially when you're younger, that wants to kick ass, that wants to kick some ass, drink some beers, and so on and so forth. Discipline is what connects the necessary aspect of being a man, that capacity for evil, and takes him and points him into a good direction. Without that gameness, that desire to fight, that ability to say yes when you need to, without being held back by your fears, and that strength that gives you the capacity to be able to win, and then the mastery, which is the skill that you need to develop over time to be able to win. Without those things, without the gameness, the strength, the mastery, those barbarian virtues that Theodore Roosevelt talks about, you're useless. That sounds harsh, but I'm talking to a specific kind of man. I'm not talking to. I'm talking to a guy who has the capacity for strength and he's not fostering it. I'm talking to a guy who's a leader of a family and he doesn't know how to defend himself or his family. If you don't have these things, goodness is irrelevant. Goodness cannot come because you don't have the ability to protect the good. These barbarian virtues that Theodore Roosevelt talks about, we need them to maintain the soft virtues. If we don't have the barbarian virtues, the soft virtues that we're so proud of, that we love so dearly, the safety, the manners, all this stuff, they're going to be thrown out the window. And we can see it in our society that we are turning our back on these barbarian virtues. And it is dangerous. It is. I know if I have a son, I'm going to raise him a certain way, like my old man raised me, and like my friends raised their sons. I'm not worried about necessarily my people, my friends, my tribe, my inner circle. I'm not necessarily worried about you because you're listening to a podcast like this, so you get it, obviously. But why are we putting weak people into positions like being teachers, or why are we putting them weak people into positions of dictating how we teach our kids, or what we teach them, or what's offensive and what's not offensive? It's getting out of control. We can't speak the truth anymore, and it's because we have a soft society. This is all why we need to foster strength in our men, in our boys. What's called the average alpha tribe. It's the 400 plus guys that are in there training and developing virtues that help them get stronger, be better men. So the average alpha tribe, it's not just about getting stronger or building more muscle or increasing testosterone levels. That's a part of it, but we also go through virtues that show that are branded into men through challenges that help us become better men. So find your own place where you can become a barbarian while maintaining that discipline, because you're going to need to be a barbarian at some point in your life. We need to encourage our young men, especially, to be dangerous and to be disciplined. If they have discipline, they'll serve society better than they could otherwise. But if they don't have that capacity, if they don't have that strength, mastery, and gameness, if they don't have the barbarian virtues, they're impotent. Discipline is kind of irrelevant. Our society is not going to be kept in line like it should be. The weak men are going to be doing their cunning little tricks. So we need to get back to fostering these barbarian virtues in our young men. I don't have the answer of how to from a school system standpoint, but if you have a son, raise him right. If you have a daughter, raise her right. Because we are, whatever my generation is, it's embarrassing. Holy shit. I'm in a bubble because all my pals are wicked. They're getting after it. They're doing great things, but you see this stuff on college campuses, on the news. I don't watch the news anymore, but you turn it on and it's just a bunch of babies. So if we can get our young men to get used to brutality, to get used to pain, to get discipline developed, then we're going to be a lot better off because we need it as a society. We cannot turn our backs on those barbarian virtues. That is all. Depending on where you're listening to this, if it's on iTunes, I don't know how that works. Someone else does that on my end. If you're listening to this or watching this on the YouTube, I'll put a link down to that tribe I was just mentioning. Ooh, and I got one thing. If you see this on the YouTube or the Facebook, you're lucky. If you're watching this on iTunes, check out my Facebook fan page. Make sure you're on the newsletter. Make sure you are on the YouTube channel as well, because we have something big coming out. So this is that big thing. You can see it is called Barbarian Manhood Multi. It's basically just filling in the gaps in our daily nutrition that most men aren't getting. Simple things like D3, zinc, A, B complex, B5, selenium, so magnesium. There's a lot of things we're not getting in our daily diets, and this manhood multi aims to fill those gaps. So I'm pretty pumped about it. Barbarian Manhood Multi. Thank you, Wicked. All right, fellas, I'll give you more info on that when it comes out. It's not out yet. If you enjoyed this quick little podcast, I'm seeing 21 minutes. If you enjoyed the podcast, if you could share it in some way, that'd be amazing. If you didn't enjoy it, tell me why. And tell me what I can improve, and tell me what I should be talking about if this isn't one of the things that you think you need to hear. If you know someone that needs to hear this podcast, pass it on. That'd be much appreciated. All right. Take care.